Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to our Churchill Fellowship and Accessibility Webinar. Thank you for your interest in the Churchill Fellowship. It's great to see so many people on the call. I'm Osman Fareed, Fellowship Officer, and I'm joined by Head of Fellowship, Abigail Campbell. This is a series of webinars we're holding between now and the application deadline on the 4th of November. We'll be recording them and putting them on our website along with the slides so you can review them at your own pace. We're also holding weekly drop-in sessions, which are less formal and more conversational. You can find out more about these on our Eventbrite page, which we'll post in the chat at the end of the webinar. Let's go to the next slide. Oops, coming unsafe. A quick overview of what we'll be covering today. First, you will be hearing from Abigail about what a fellowship is and how it works. We'll then take a break for any questions you might have. Then Abigail will talk through the support that's available to applicants and fellows. Do post your questions in the Q&A function or chat as we go. Don't worry if your question isn't answered today, you can get in touch via the email that we'll provide at the end. The webinar is scheduled for 45 minutes, so we'll be done by 12:45 or whenever we run out of questions to answer. I'll now hand over to Abigail to take you through the presentation.
Thank you, Osman. Lovely to have you with us on this webinar. Thanks, as Osman said, for making the time. And it's great to see you. Just have the next slide up, please, Osman, so that I can remember what I'm supposed to be saying. Lovely, thank you very much. Yeah, so we thought you might have been, yes, and I can also pick up the chat. I can multitask while I'm talking. So just to reassure you, yes, the drop-ins webinars that are on our Eventbrite page are sold out at the moment, and we're about to put a whole new set of both webinars and drop-ins on Eventbrite. They'll be live early next week, so I would recommend checking in on Monday, and then you'll be able to sign up for other ways to access this kind of information. Okay, so I'm just going to recap. So if you've been to a webinar before or you've looked at our website, hopefully you'll be familiar with the first part of this presentation, but we wanted to make sure everybody could start on the same page and a useful reminder, even if you've got a little bit of knowledge about what a Churchill Fellowship is. So in essence, it's an opportunity to learn from overseas about how to influence change in the UK. So at the heart of it is an opportunity to go to another country and access some learning and bring it back in order to influence a social change that is needed in the UK. And we don't prescribe what that change is. That is up to you as an applicant to decide what the change that you think needs to be made and needs to be made. So it can be a local change or a national change, and it can happen at the grassroots or at the policy level or both. It can be for a sector or a community. It's self-directed, self-determined by you. So as long as you can tell us and persuade us that a change needs to be made, we're not going to say that it shouldn't. The other thing that's distinctive about a fellowship is it's as much about the individual as the idea. What we're doing is investing in the potential of you as an individual to make change happen. And what makes the fellowship unique, I think, is that combination of the idea for social change and the individual. So it doesn't matter if you look on our website and you see somebody else is covering a similar issue to that which you want to cover, because it's the unique combination of what you bring to that research and that idea of change as the idea itself. And then finally, the thing to emphasize is it's for life. So we're talking about a fellowship as an experience which lasts over a period of time, which I'll get into on the next slide. But you never stop being a fellow once you've become a fellow. So it's a lifetime opportunity, and you are also joining a community of people who are all lifetime fellows as well. So although the essence of it is that individual experience, we understand change needs lots of people to make change happen, and that's why the fellowship is a group of people as well as an individual learning experience. Okay, next slide, please, Osman. So we're quite distinctive, I think, as a funder or as a grant maker, in that we're only open once a year. So we have one application window, and it opens in September and closes in November. And then as you apply, your learning is also constrained for between 4 to 8 weeks. So it has to be a minimum of 4 weeks and a maximum of 8 weeks. And the period that you can learn is kind of as part of the application cycle. So if you're applying this coming September, then your learning would have to happen between the 1st of August 2026 and the 30th of September 2027. So there's a kind of 15-month window where you can actually go and do your learning. I've talked about overseas learning being at the heart of the fellowship, but I think it's important to say that you don't actually have to travel. So since COVID, we made a change so that people can do their learning virtually. So you could stay in the UK and be learning from an overseas country through the power of the interweb, or you can mix it up. So you can do some traveling overseas and some learning online. And we hope, well, we know from experience that has been helpful for people with different commitments and responsibilities that would make it hard for them to spend lengths of time overseas. The grant itself is made up of the travel cost, so the cost it would take you to travel overseas, and then the time, the living cost associated with the time you'll be spending in different places. We have a rate card that we adjust year on year to make sure that you can afford to live in the place that you're learning from. And then we can cover incidental additional costs like translation, because we don't want language to be a barrier when you're carrying out your learning. So there are other associated costs we can also support. If you have a support worker or a personal assistant, we can cover their costs too. So that also is not a barrier, should not be a barrier for you thinking about carrying out a fellowship. And in this current cohort, I think we have 3 or 4 people who are traveling with support workers and carrying out their learning together. So they're fully supported while they're away. And then we ask that you create, when you've come back or finished your learning, if you stayed in the UK, that you compile a report. And you've got around 3 months to share that with us after you've completed your overseas learning. But as I'll reiterate later on in the presentation, we're flexible about that. So if you need a bit longer, we are very flexible. Okay, next slide, please, as well. So who can apply? Well, in essence, as long as you're a UK citizen and that you're living in the UK and that you're aged 18 or over by the end of this year, you can apply. So those are the main eligibility criteria. But above and beyond that, I think it's important to say you don't have to be an expert. We're not looking for experts, or you don't necessarily have to be qualified formally in the field that you want to look at. I think what's most important to get across is you need to have a passion for the thing that you want to change, the thing that you want to learn about and explore. And you have to be determined enough to carry a piece of learning out that is basically self-directed. So you'll need to be confident enough and kind of resilient enough to plan your learning and to do your traveling. And we are here as a team to support you, but we're a fairly small team. And the essence of the fellowship is that the power of the individual to kind of carry out their own learning and their own fellowship. So I think think about, is that you? Are you at the right stage to do this fellowship? Is it something that you could come back to at a later stage? Just make sure that you're feeling confident enough to be able to carry out something that it's very self-directed. Obviously this webinar is all about support and we are completely here to support you, but you need to have that passion yourself, I think, and that determination to be able to do quite a lot of this on your own. Next slide, please, as well. So we thought it would be helpful just to highlight in the first half of our presentation what we ask in our application form. There is an outline. These questions are also on our website, and you can also see the whole form at the moment in a kind of sample state. So don't use that to apply, but it's there for you to be able to see what we ask and the kind of layout, so to get familiar with it before the application formally opens in September. So we hope that's helpful. But the 4 main questions are: what's the change that you want to make in the UK? and why you're the right person to carry out a fellowship and try and make that change happen. And then we ask you to tell us about the countries you want to learn from and the reasons why. So this is when you'll have to do a little bit of pre-learning, I guess. You'll have to know enough about a country or two or three and the places within it that make them good places to go to help your learning. So we don't ask for like super detail. You don't need to name names and people necessarily, but you'll need to convince us that you've actually thought about this. And for instance, Oslo is a good place to go to learn about a certain thing because of this. So you need to have a little bit of detail in there, even at this quite early stage in the application process. And then the fourth question is how you'll use your learning to make the change happen. So in that section, it's an opportunity to kind of tell us, is to reiterate why you're the best person, really. Like, who are you going to be able to talk to? How are you going to share your learning? How will you make sure it doesn't just stay in a report and actually does influence change? And then the other thing we don't ask for the references at this first stage, we'll ask for them much later in the process, but you'll need to be thinking now and identify in this form 2 people who can articulate why you would make a good fellow. So they don't have to be employer references. They can be people who know you well. They shouldn't be family or friends because there has to be that little bit of independence. But they should be able to convince us that you are capable of carrying out a fellowship and that you're kind of committed to the change that you want to make. So 2 people who can speak to that, it would be good to think about now, I think. And next slide, please, Esmond. Okay, this is hopefully a helpful way of demonstrating how the fellowships are organised. So we organise our grants and our fellowships through different programmes, and we've got 11 at the moment. I think I've counted them right. And we make roughly 10 awards through each programme a year. So next year we anticipate making around 110 awards, individual fellowships, and they're grouped through these different programmes. The arts programme, the economies programme, that should say economies, not communities, top left, the society that cares, climate change, natural environment, education, health, and tech for all. And then the final programme is an open category for any ideas which don't belong in any of those programmes. And then you can, within that open category, you could decide, is it a general open idea? Is it more of a health and well-being kind of idea, or a governance and public provision idea? And the application form allows you to choose those options very straightforwardly. And the reason why we do that is they're the most common kind of categories in the open field. So we just try to make it a bit easier for people to direct their idea. And the reason we organise our fellowships in these programmes is partly because we want to make sure that if you get right to the end of the process and have an interview, that you're being interviewed by people who are experts in the field that you are wanting to work in. So that's how we kind of organise our funding and our fellowships. And these programs change over time. So they usually last about 3 or 4 years, and then we will refresh them. But they're all kind of in these general areas, like common issues and concerns across the whole of the UK. Okay, thank you, Usman. And then I'll just finish this first half of the presentation with a review of the timeline. I think somebody was asking about this in the chat earlier. So yeah, just to reiterate, we have that 2-month window for applications from the 2nd of September to the 4th of November. And then the first correspondence we'll make with you after that is in December, where we'll tell you if you've been longlisted. All our communications are by email, so there won't be any unexpected phone calls or any written formal letters anymore. It's all done by email. So do make sure that your current email address is in the application form. And then in February, you will find out if you had been shortlisted. And then in March, you'll get the date of your interview. Then the interviews happen in London or on Zoom, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in the second half of the presentation, in April and May. And then you'll find out if you've been successful at the very start of June. And then in July, we host a celebration event for all the new fellows. And then, as I said before, the period of overseas learning happens between August next year and September the year after. So that gives you an overview of the timeline of the fellowships and hopefully a useful introduction to a fellowship. I think we'll just take a little break now and see if there are any questions that kind of relate to that that general side of the presentation before we get more into the support that we can offer you. So is there any more? Yes, we talked about the drop-ins, haven't we, and how we'll make them more available. Okay, so just have to bear with me while we read and try and respond in real time. Right, so passion, definitely. Yes, well, it is competitive. It's a very competitive process. So this year we had about 1,300 applications, and we made just over 110 awards. So it's competitive, but not impossibly so, I could say. And I know I can see from the person that's asked this question, you can apply for a number of times. There is no limit on the number of times you can apply. And people do get to be successful after a number of times. So this year, I think somebody was successful on their 5th attempt. So I wouldn't be disheartened, and I would also feel don't take it personally. It's just a very competitive process, and I think it's just worth keeping going. The passion thing is important. It genuinely isn't about being an expert or a formally qualified person in your field, because the fellowship is rooted in that sense that anybody can make a change happen, with the right support and networks, and which we can, part of the fellowship is about creating. So yeah, I hope don't be disheartened is my message, and please do consider applying again.
So we've got one question here, and it's asking what if your idea spans a few categories, where would you put it? So basically, when it comes to your fellowship project and what program to apply under, I would say don't worry about it too much, because we can automatically move it for you if it would suit a different program better. But some things which you can think about when deciding where to place your fellowship could be like, what sector or what community do you feel like it could make the most difference in? So you could use that as sort of guidelines for where to put your project. But don't worry about it too much, because we'll move it automatically if need be.
Thanks, Esmond. Just go to the questions in the chat. Are we happy to take applications from civil servants and government employees? Yes, absolutely. And we have a number of existing fellows who are working in various government departments and in policy. So absolutely, it's a very interesting way of enabling change to happen, isn't it? Being in those sectors. So yeah, absolutely.
We've got another question over here, and it says, does the funding include stipend for general living costs? If so, would this be in addition to learning costs or be part of the package? Do you want to take that one over?
The grant is made out of the travel costs, so flights or train fares or ferry tickets, and then the living costs, which amount to accommodation and food and drink, based on an average rate that we have established that reflects the place that the learning is happening in. So the number of days that you're in that place times this rate. So hopefully that helps. But we don't pay for people's time. So it's the costs of being overseas and doing the learning that we're supporting.
Yeah, and we've got another question from Susan, and she says, in terms of making the case for the topic, do you expect or rate more highly applications which are grounded in academic research or references? And I would say not really, because we put a lot of emphasis on lived experience. So you don't have to have formal qualifications in order to get a fellowship. So don't worry about that too much.
Just going to Teresa's question in the chat. Do we have to identify places to work and learn in the country, and do we get help with this? Yeah, you have to identify the places. You have to make a good case for why you want to learn from overseas. So you have to know a little bit about what you're going to be learning from. I think the best way to get support for that is to look on our website, and in particular the ideas library, where existing fellows projects are detailed, and you can get in touch with fellows as well. So if you want to get support from the fellowship community, I think that's the best way to do it. But it is very much up to you to decide what the changes you want to make and where you want to learn from. That isn't something we're not really set up to help with. And
another question is on application eligibility. I'm a UK citizen with a natural Irish passport, but born abroad. Am I still eligible? Yes, you would be eligible as long as you're a UK citizen. You're living within the UK, then you would be eligible and 18 years of age.
Great. These are great questions, and if we don't, we'll pick up the presentation in a minute, and then we'll come back to these and to new ones as well. And please also be reassured, if we don't manage to answer them all in the time, we'll pick all these up and get back to you. We'll send round a summary of the Q&A. I think that'd probably be a helpful way of doing it. But just a few more. So the access requirements, long haul travel, include upgrade for energy limited conditions. Yes, absolutely. We are committed to meeting you where you are. So if your access needs required certain way of traveling, that's what we would support. Absolutely. And rest days, definitely. We would definitely encourage everybody to add those into the period of learning, so that you have time to recover, recuperate, immerse yourself in the place that you are. So there's absolutely no sense that you should be doing back-to-back meetings and traveling. We're really mindful of making this a valuable and meaningful learning experience. The budget, well, there isn't. I think hopefully you'll pick this up from the way we've been talking. It's there's lots about the fellowship that is a case-by-case thing, which I think is really important. But the average budget, I think, is around £10,000, but it really does vary depending on your needs, where you're going, how long you're going for. So don't hold that too tightly in your head, but just to know. And the new themes or programs this year are the Making Space for the Arts program, the Building Prosperous and Resilient Economies, and Building a Society that Cares. They're the three new ones. The themes are consistent, but they are the new packages of the themes, as it were. Go on, I'm sorry.
Sorry, a question from Susan. She says, if a previous fellow has studied a similar topic, but would the application be treated as equally as another applicant who proposes a completely new topic? So in terms of treading the same ground as previous fellows, it's completely fine. Like, you don't have to worry about overlapping fellowships, because it will have your own unique spin on it, essentially. So as long as you're it's very much fellow-led, so you'll be fine. There's no need to worry about
that. Okay, and I think the other questions that are outstanding we should cover in the second half of the presentation, but if not, we will, as I said, we will come back to them for the second round of questions. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Right, let's resume the slides, Usman, please. Thank you. Okay, so the second half of the presentation is going to cover in a more specific way, the support that we can offer to help make a fellowship, and that will help make, in the first place, help make an application as easy as possible, and secondly, a fellowship. So the first thing I wanted to say is, please spend some time getting to grips with our website. There is a lot of information on it, but I'll highlight the how to apply section. You see in the top right of the slide, there's a little red rectangle that says apply here. At the moment, it says become a fellow, but from the 2nd of September, it will say apply here. And that will be your link straight to the application form and the way to apply. But in the meantime, if you follow the become a fellow link, it will take you to a how to apply section on the website, which some of you may have seen already. But it's got the sample application form on, it's got the questions, it's got some really useful FAQs. So actually, another thing, if your question isn't answered today, definitely worth having a look there, because the common questions are listed on the website. Each program has got its own brief as well, which gives you the criteria, and for the new programs, there are videos and blogs as well to kind of introduce them and hopefully make them a bit clearer in terms of what we're looking for. The other part of the website that's useful, I think, is the ideas and expert section. And if you go to the top of the website, you'll see that's one of the options to click on. And that's where you'll find all about our current fellows. So there'll be a little bit about what their project was, their fellowship was, and if they've completed their learning, it will have a link to their report as well. So you can find out, a lot more about what they did, where they went. And quite a few fellows have opted into being able to be contacted. So you can connect with them online, just drop them a query, and then they'll get back to you, I'm sure, because it definitely, the thing that fellows want to do is help each other. So they'll help applicants as well. So do make use of the website. Second thing is doing what you're doing today, coming to our drop-ins and our webinars. And as I said earlier, we're definitely going to be putting more on Eventbrite from next week. So there'll be more to sign up to. And we're going to record the webinars. We're not recording the drop-ins because they're less formal, but the webinars will be recorded and put on the website. If you're less comfortable being in a setting like this, or a drop-in, with 20, 30 people and asking questions just isn't your thing, absolutely fine. Email us, and if you prefer to have a one-to-one conversation, just let us know, and we can send you a link to book a one-to-one call. It will be either Usman or myself, so you now know the people you'll be talking to, and hopefully that's helpful as well. When it comes to making the application, Usman and I are very happy to work as scribes. So if you have a great idea and you know what you want to say, but you struggle to get it down in a shape and to organize your thoughts onto the application form, we are here to help. We've done that successfully, I think, hopefully over the last couple of years. So we're more than happy to try and do that for you as well. Because we understand it's hard to sometimes articulate what you want to say, so we're here to help. We've put AI down. Obviously, we couldn't say don't use it anyway. It's there, people use it, and we understand it can be a really helpful tool, especially to start your thinking off, to start, when you're looking at that blank page, just to get an AI tool to help you. Absolutely fine. The thing we'd say is, just going back to what we said right at the beginning about the importance of a fellowship being about the individual and the uniqueness of the individual and their idea. Don't use AI to the extent that it just wipes out that individuality and the thing that's unique about you. And remember, at the end of the process, there'll be an interview. So, just don't lose sight of who you are and what your very personal thinking is if you are using AI. There are alternatives to our online form, and we hope most people will be able to use the online form. We've made it as simple as we can, we think. Nevertheless, we understand it doesn't suit everybody for lots of different reasons. So if you would prefer to use the Word form, you can just let us know, and we'll send you the Word form, and you could complete it that way. You can also submit an audio recording for those longer questions. If it's easier for you to record yourself speaking, that's absolutely fine. We can do that. And then there may be things that we haven't thought about that will actually help you. And we're really keen to hear those ideas. So again, just email us or call us and say, could we do it like this? And if we can, if there's a good reason why, then we're really happy to hear those ideas as well. I think I've mentioned other fellows. Yeah, please use the fellowship community. They're really ready to help, and the website is the best way to do it. And I think, yes, I've also mentioned, don't hesitate to email or call us. This is what our jobs are. We are here to help. So hopefully that comes across as a genuine invitation. Please feel free to follow up with us. Okay, next slide, please, Usman. Thanks. So this is just to let you know about a new thing that's happening this year for the first time. So as I've said before, we don't usually, as part of the fellowship grant, we can't support costs to do with caring responsibilities or being self-employed. But we know that these are two big barriers for people who are considering applying for a fellowship. Every year we survey people who've started an application but not finished it. And those are two big reasons for why people don't pursue a fellowship application, because they have relationships and costs that are associated with being a carer or working in a freelance capacity that would just make it very difficult for them to carry out a fellowship. So for this time, for the first time, and only for 2 programs, we're piloting offering some additional support to help with both of those situations. And the way, we're not asking you to tell us anything about that at the very first stage of interview. It would be of an application. It would be if you've got right towards the end and you were just ahead of having an interview, we would have a conversation with you to understand what costs and needs you might want help with, and then we would propose building that into your grant if you were successful. So we're trying not to be in a situation where you're having to tell us too much about your financial situation that we wouldn't then necessarily use. So we're trying to limit the kind of more intrusive conversations that we might need to have, although we would obviously try and do them as sensitively and carefully and thoughtfully as possible. I realise that means that you're now in a situation where you don't know if you would get help. Is it worth spending the time on an application? So to balance that out, we just wanted to reiterate, we're also happy to have conversations at this stage. So if you want to have a conversation with me or Usman just to talk about, what kind of thing do you imagine we might be able to support, we can do that. So again, just email us to find out more. It's one of those case-by-case things in the fellowship program that is just easier to talk on a one-to-one basis. And also, sorry, at the moment, this doesn't apply to any other program but those 2. But we really want to learn about how we can do this best and not to offer something that just isn't fit for purpose or is just not feasible for us to carry out. So this is why we're doing it in a careful way, and we're going to evaluate it over 3 years, and then but we hope to be in a position then to offer it more widely across the fellowships in the future. So hopefully that's helpful. Next slide, please. So if you are successful in getting to the interview stage, wanted to reassure you about interviews, because I know they can be they can cause anxiety. They cause anxiety to me, they cause anxiety to lots of people. But just to say, we hold a webinar that is devoted to the interview with people who are going to be on the interview panel. They'll be on the Zoom meeting as well. So, and we talk through exactly what happens, what the room looks like, what you can do, what you can't do, try and give you as much of a feeling about what an interview is before you get there. We send the questions in advance. You can carry them out on Zoom or in person in London, whichever suits you best. We cover your costs for getting to our offices where the interviews are held if you want to do it in person. And if you work with a support worker or a personal assistant, they can attend the interview too, and we can cover their costs as well. Hopefully that's reassuring. That happens right at the end of the process, as you'll have seen from the timeline. Next slide, please. And then if you're successful in getting a fellowship, I just wanted to run through a few ways in which we can support you to make it as easy as possible for you to carry it out. So the first thing to say is, although we encourage people to do all their overseas learning in one go, we understand that that's not going to work for everyone. You might have caring responsibilities or work responsibilities that just make that impossible. So if it helps to take it in chunks, that's absolutely fine. You can do it in different phases. We work with a travel agency, so they can help with bookings, and there's no need to pay up front. They can pay up front and then they'll invoice us, so you're not going to be out of pocket in terms of booking that travel. If you are going to do your fellowship or part of it from the UK, so some of it at least is going to be online, then we can support the cost of a separate space outside of your home so that you can properly immerse yourself and have a little bit of distance from your home life if that suits you. So you can wrap that cost into the budget. We insure all fellows automatically, so it's fully comprehensive, so you don't need to worry about that. I think I've mentioned before, we're really, really keen on supporting translators and interpreters, and we can help you get quotes and speak to other fellows who've worked with translators before to give you some advice. But don't let language be a barrier to a fellowship. If you are successful and become a fellow, you have access to the Churchill Fellowship's Employee Support Programme, which gives you access to things like a counsellor, some legal advice, some financial advice, so kind of regular and quite helpful employee support programme. So that's there for you as well. We've talked before how we can support the costs of a support worker or a personal assistant to travel with you, and we can work with them and you on all the stuff that we've talked about. It can be a three-way conversation, so that's absolutely fine, and we're very comfortable doing that. And then I think I've hopefully made this clear as well throughout the presentation that the fellowship community is a massive source of support, and I don't think I've ever come across such generous people. So please tap into their expertise if you are a fellow, and people are very keen to recommend places and to share tips. So there's lots of that going on. And then even once you've become a fellow, there's a whole series of webinars that are on offer throughout your fellowship. So from self-care, how to look after yourself when you're traveling, to like taking good photos, safeguarding, all sorts of things. So that support that we offer virtually continues throughout your fellowship. I think next slide, and then I think we're nearly there. So post-learning, when you come back, just to say, I think often the idea of producing a report can feel a bit off-putting to people, but we wanted to take the opportunity to say it can be in any format. So it doesn't have to be a written report in an academic sense with references. It doesn't have to be anything like that. Recently, it can be if you want it to be, but recently other fellows have produced podcasts or vlogs or slides like a PowerPoint presentation. Whatever suits you, your way of learning, your way of sharing your learning, and the change that you want to make. So I guess it's got to be useful to your goal of making change happen in the UK. And as long as it can do that and it suits you, we are very happy with that. And I think I've said before about our flexibility. So if you needed more time than the 3 months post traveling or learning from overseas, that's fine. We can provide support. So, we run surgeries to give you one-to-one support with producing and developing that report. And you'll have access free of charge to a copywriter if it is a largely written report. There's no requirement to use the copywriter, but they're there if you need them. And then once you've finished your report, it will go online on our website. So you can link to it from wherever you need to. And then we provide grants of up to £500 to help with this post-learning phase. So if you wanted to put on an event or carry out some networking or turn your report into something else, that there's a grant available for you to apply to of up to £500. And then if you wanted to host events or collaborate with other fellows to host events, we can help with that. We're doing a lot of what we call convening at the moment, so gathering useful people together to help you make the change you want to happen. And of course, that peer support is there from the fellowship community as well. And I think that brings me to the end of the second half of the presentation, and hopefully we've got time for some more questions before we draw to a close. Okay.
Yeah, I've got one question from Afia over here, and she asks, can you use a previous fellow as a reference? And that's completely fine. There's no problem with that. And another question is, would the cost of reasonable adjustments outweigh the need to travel to a certain country? Would this affect the application, or would it be preferable to do this virtually due to the cost?
No, thanks for the question. No, that should never be a barrier. We want everybody to be able to have the same access to doing overseas learning if they wanted to do it. So no, and there isn't a cap on the cost, although I've given you that average sum. We want to make sure that it's a very fellow-led approach. So if it's the best way to do your learning, to travel overseas, whatever the cost, then we'll find a way of supporting you.
And I've got a question from Beck, and she asks, how interested are you in the research methodology approach? Are you open to experimental methodologies?
Yes, we're very open to different kinds of experimental and open methodology. I'm intrigued by what they could be. I'm just thinking, but no, absolutely. I think as long as you can make the case for why the approach you're taking is going to yield the learning that you need in order to make the change happen, that's fine. It's to a great extent, it's all about the story you tell and how you articulate how the idea for change, you and how you're going to make the learning happen all thread together. So try and think of it like that. But no, we don't have one prescribed way of carrying out your learning or research. Very open to different ideas.
Thanks. And Afia asks, how soon after you get to the final stage would you need to use the fellowship opportunity? Can you spread it across different countries? I think what that's asking is how soon would you have to travel? And I think the travel phase is from August 2026 till September 2027, and you can break up your travel, so you don't have to do it all at once. You can go to different countries. So you could spend like 2 weeks in, say, Italy and another 2 weeks in Germany, and you can split up that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And we say no more than 2 continents, just to be able to make sure that you can carry out the learning in a meaningful way without running yourself ragged. But multiple countries is good, it's fine. And there's a question about references, when we use the references. So we contact them in February. I think I'm trying to remember my own timeline. I think that's right. And so we would recommend that if you are going to apply in September, in that form, we ask you to identify who your referees are, but we won't contact them until February. But it is worth, at the point that you put them on the form, telling them that you're doing it, just so that they're ready and they know what's happening and they know what you're applying for. And they're used, I should say, the second part of the question is they're used by at the very end of the process. They're used as part of the pack that goes to the panel who are going to interview you. So they will be taking it and making the final decision. So they'll be taking into account the application form you share from this first stage, another form that we ask in the spring next year, which asks for a bit more detail about your travel plans and your budget, and then your references as well, and then the interview. So the final decision is made out of all of that. So there's not one part that's more important than another. It's the whole package.
And Suzanne asks, if an applicant has applied before and was unsuccessful, should this information be included in the new application? I don't think it's necessary to do that at all. But you could show like how your project has evolved and include details of that, but you don't have to tell us that you've applied before.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah, we can actually see on the system if you've applied for, but it matters. It doesn't matter at all. It won't affect your chances in the slightest.
And Laura asks, flexibility, RE flexibility for extra time. What if a significant delay is needed, for example, a year due to relapse, still okay? Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, is this a delay?
It's in the Q&A section.
Yeah, for the report, if it's about the reporting, yeah, that, I mean, you know, it's all to do with the individual circumstance. So if you've got, you know, a really good reason for why you just haven't been able to produce the report, we would want to know and support you as much as we can. But yeah, absolutely, we're very, I like to think we're very understanding, and what, you know, people's real life situations get in the way of all sorts of things. So yeah, we understand that, and that's fine.
Denise says, so it's fine to apply for a second time with a new project idea. Yeah, you can apply as many times as you want, once per year. And yeah, there's no issue with that.
Yeah, it can be the same idea but advanced, or a completely new idea. Absolutely. Yeah, as long as you can share the passion that you've got for it and the knowledge why it's a good idea to try and create change in this area. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Somebody asks, is there room to defer due to pregnancy? We're trying for a baby and want to apply. You may just have answered this.
That's a tricky one. I mean, personally, I'd go for it. I'd make an application and just, yeah, and then see what happens. If you're really clear, if it wasn't a pregnancy situation but something else where you just knew that you weren't going to be able to do it in the timeline, I would just wait and do it another year, because we try to avoid deferring fellowships as much as possible, because we're trying to create a cohort of people. So if you were successful, you'd be selected as part of a cohort, and a balanced cohort of people with lived experience and experts, and lots of other dynamics going on. So you're part of a group. So I would, if you're pretty clear you're not going to be able to carry out the learning in the period that we've said, I'd wait until the next year, because we offer the same thing every year. But if you're not sure, then by all means give it a go. We can't guarantee that we would be able to defer it, but I'm not sure that was super clear, but hopefully of some use. Okay, I think we're at time, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I think we'll draw to a close, and Osman's put the email address that we've been talking about a lot today in the chat. So feel free to direct any other questions there or clarifications. And thank you so much for spending time with us today. We hope it's been useful, and good luck. Yeah, we wish you the best of luck if you do apply, and take care. Thanks, everyone. Bye.